Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody!
Today has been a long day. Despite my shirt, well, I'll spare you the details, but I've had to think a lot today. One of the few things that Dr. Don told me in my first programming class at college was that a computer is the stupidest thing you will ever deal with, because it will do exactly what you tell it to do every time you tell it to do it. And every time my mother would tell me, "Gosh, you and your brother make me feel so stupid sometimes," I would always respond with, "Well, it's a good thing you don't do what I do for a living, because that's what software engineering is. Just over and over, again and again and again, you just feel stupid all the time." Anyway, that has absolutely nothing to do with the topic of today's video. Now, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you have probably seen my ranking of all of the Godzilla movies, which was made in the wake of the release of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. And in the course of that video, as long as you didn't skip through the parts relevant to what I am about to say, you know that I don't exactly have very high praise for Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle, Godzilla the Planet Eater, or Godzilla Singular Point, all of which are Godzilla anime. So today I wish to set the record straight and kind of clear up my thoughts on Godzilla within anime. So let's wind the clock back to a time before the MonsterVerse, back in, let's say, 2013, 2012, something like that. I was in high school, and at the time, I really loved anime. I won't say which anime I liked, although I have included clips of a few anime over the months, if I do remember correctly. But as someone who loves Godzilla, this should surprise no one. Technically, the first anime I ever watched was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime, but I don't really count that because I didn't even know what anime was at the time. So I would technically qualify the first anime that I ever watched as... And before anyone gets started on my particular exposure to Dragon Ball stuff, I started out watching the Dragon Ball DVDs for Season 9 of Dragon Ball Z. And then I worked my way backwards to watch the rest of the Majin Buu and Fusion arcs, because I had started my exposure to Dragon Ball through the first Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game on the PlayStation 2. I know it's hard for some people to believe, but yeah, some people were exposed to Dragon Ball through that particular Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game. I did not play the Budokai games until after I played that, and technically I didn't even play Dragon Ball Z Budokai until after I played Budokai Tenkaichi 3. And technically I didn't even play Budokai, I played Budokai 3. At some point I plan on doing a PlayStation 2 games that I physically own tier list video, but I haven't recorded that yet, and I don't know if I even will at this rate. But on the DVD for Dragon Ball Z Season 9, there was an advertisement for an anime called Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple, which I will forever be butthurt that they never fully adapted the manga to. I've watched some of the OVAs, but I mostly stick with the 2 seasons of the anime that were put on DVD, and yeah, I watched them dubbed. I pretty much prefer dubbed, but that was also before a certain mind virus,
The Message,
started seeping into that industry, so I haven't watched any new dubbed stuff for a long while. It's also kind of why I'm kind of glad that I bought the Japanese release for Godzilla -1, because from what I understand, the Netflix English dub is kind of polluted. Not heavily so, but more than I would care to support financially. Anyway, obviously I am sort of fond of anime, so you can imagine back then how excited I was to hear that Godzilla was getting an anime in some form or fashion. Now, obviously, we eventually learned that it was going to be a movie, but I was super excited. I didn't really care whether it was a show or a movie. I just knew Godzilla good, anime good. Godzilla and anime was something that I really, really, really wanted. That was, of course, until I read and found out that it was going to be a 3D anime. Now, by the time that happened, I had kind of fallen off of watching anime. It was kind of a huge part of my life back in high school, but I think at some point in my freshman year of college, after the first season of One Punch Man came out, I just stopped watching. Plus, you know, college is kind of a time-draining thing. But I started going to college in September of 2015, and the Godzilla anime movies did not come out until 2017, starting with Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, and oh my goodness.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary... Oh my goodness!
Consequences were never the same after that. I was so disappointed with Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. And like I said, if you've watched my Godzilla movies and series tier list video, you know that all too well. So I kind of wanted to go over today a couple notes that I have written down here as to kind of what I wanted out of a Godzilla anime, why it should work, what could be done with it, and just, you know, that whole shebang. So the first note I have here in my notebook is 2D, not 3D. I don't think it's possible for me to rag on this enough. I really don't. The 3D animation in the anime trilogy was so lackluster and stiff. My brother has recently been rewatching the anime trilogy on his own time because we're kind of kicking around creative ideas for some of our own Godzilla machinations, and part of that involves some of the stuff that is in the anime trilogy, and in order to improve something, you kind of have to understand it in the first place. So he's been rewatching some of that stuff, mostly because I think he fell asleep while we were watching the second one, which makes him luckier than me. I have ragged on it. Godzilla moves at like 1 frame every 10 minutes. The monster fights, as rare as they are so painfully limp as a result of the fact that the monsters don't move. My brother actually told me earlier when he was talking about Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, he said, most of the humans that die do not die because of anything Godzilla does. They basically accidentally crash into him or move in front of his arms or his legs and just inadvertently die in the process. And I have a feeling a lot of the kind of 3D animation was responsible for a lot of that. I don't really have any sources to back that up.
Nice arguments. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it up.
But the short version is that it was a massive letdown. It didn't look good. Godzilla did not improve in the transition to anime like I thought he would have. So I pretty much gave up the dream of Godzilla in anime at that point. I was like, this is so horrible. They're never going to do this again. There's no way in hell Toho saw the sales for that trilogy of films and went, yeah, let's do that again. As I have said before, Toho decided to go, hold my beer. And we were told we were not getting an anime movie trilogy at this point. We were getting a series. And when I heard that, I was like, okay. We're off to a better start this time. At least a traditional series might fix some of the problems. Especially because now the human characters are traditionally animated, or at the very least, they're digitally animated in the style that mimics traditional animation, like most modern anime does nowadays. It was kind of a monkey paw situation though, for more reasons than I'll go into here, but all of the monsters were still 3D animated, which was kind of not what I had hoped for. When I thought of anime, I thought of, you know, the hybrid digital traditional animation style. So we got it kind of, but then the monsters weren't animated in that style. Singular Point had bigger problems than the animation, if I'm being completely honest, and I will talk about that in due time. But both of the anime involved 3D animation for the monsters, which was my biggest complaint, or at least my biggest complaint before I got to the story. The reason why I wanted a more traditional kind of style of animation for the kaiju within a Godzilla anime was because a more traditional animation style would have provided the kaiju a far more fluid range of motion. They could have moved a lot faster. The fights could have been a lot more visceral. Like I said, my first anime, once I kind of reached teenagehood, was Dragon Ball Z. And I also watched Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple after that.
So you switched to Muay Thai. Well, you almost got me, but I'm afraid it's not quite going to be enough. No way.
And I also watched Yu Hakusho. And then I watched a lot of other anime that were definitely not in the style of anime that I would have wanted out of Godzilla. Although there may have been some elements that I would have wanted from those anime, and I will talk about that in due time. But when I watch an anime fight, I want to be like on the edge of my seat. You know, every punch, every kick. I wanted to see Godzilla throw down with other monsters in a sort of hyper fluid, intense, punchy anime style. I know this kind of sets the bar a little bit high, but the best example I can think of is One Punch Man Season 1. Incredibly well animated and is probably too high of a bar to expect from a Toho Company limited Godzilla anime, but that would have been ideal. And obviously if they gave us something similar to Dragon Ball Super Broly in a movie form, that would have been great too. But even some of the other stuff I've watched, such as my second favorite anime, High School DxD, would have been good.
Today has been full of surprises, but at least it's not boring.
Try laying a finger on me in memory. I dare you. I'll destroy you so completely you'll never be able to be reborn again. You hear me, Molly?
Where did that speed come from?
Hell, I would ramp up the speed to be more akin to the kind of action we saw in Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, Godzilla Save the Earth, and Godzilla Unleashed after those. I really think you should play to the strengths of the medium. I understand some people want the kind of more serious, slower paced, towering natural disaster Godzilla. It also probably would have made the monsters significantly more well designed. I can't be the only one who thinks the anime trilogy, as well as Godzilla Singular Point, made both Godzilla and his attendant rogues gallery uglier than Sin itself. I was so incredibly disappointed with the way the monsters look both in the anime trilogy and in Singular Point. And anyone who has watched the Godzilla Save the Earth Melee Monster Manual videos knows that I regret ever bringing up any of the designs of any of the monsters from any of the anime Godzilla material. Okay, so I thought the Godzilla anime were pretty ugly, but appearances are just that, appearances. What did I think of the actual stories that got told through the anime medium for Godzilla? So let me lead with this. I think that the strength of anime as it pertains to Godzilla would be that more non-traditional Godzilla stories could find their foothold in the world of anime. And in 100% fairness, technically, we did get that with both the anime trilogy and with Godzilla Singular Point. But problem with saying that is that it's more complicated than just, did we get strange stories told through Godzilla in anime? The anime trilogy was boring as all get out. Let's just be 100% honest with ourselves here. The anime films are boring. The characters are cardboard. None of the fights are exhilarating for the reasons I've already outlined. And the concepts, though interesting, are not handled nearly as well as they could have been. And so at the end of it all, you just feel like you wasted your time, and it would be nice if those stories got retold in a better form. The prequel to the anime trilogy films is far more interesting, and you can't even read it in English. So that should tell you just how good it is that you can't even watch or read it, and it vastly outstrips the material that it was meant to set up. At some point, Earth detonates like every nuclear weapon across humanity's stockpile to like entrap Godzilla in a massive canyon between some of the continents, and we never get to see that. Mechagodzilla gets developed. I'm not going to comment on my particular feelings about the design, but it's different. It's gonna be really cool when we see Godzilla fight that. Oh, wait, never mind. Then we transition to the actual anime trilogy movies. The Earth is being plagued by monsters, and humanity must be rescued by extraterrestrial species, only to come back to find the Earth radically changed. Wow, that's really cool. I want to see that. I wonder what crazy, unique, and creative things Oh, wait, okay, Godzilla's still around though, so I mean, hey, it could be worse, right? We're getting like pseudo-original new monsters, so alright, the humans have to fight Godzilla. At least the conflict will be interesting. Okay, well, they defeated Godzilla. At least we found out that that wasn't the Godzilla. Somehow Godzilla is like multiplying or something. He's part of like the Earth's immune defense system. Okay, whatever. They're going to cover it more in the next movie, I'm sure. Okay, so we're not doing that, but at least Mechagodzilla is going to be in this movie. We get to see, you know, kind of how that version of Mechagodzilla is going to fight. Oh, well darn. Okay, so Mechagodzilla is now a city. Weird, but you know, the nano metal, we're just gonna roll with it. Maybe they'll do something interesting with it. At least the fight will be kind of exciting, right? Godzilla taking on an entire living city. Okay, I'm getting tired of this at this point. Oh, but wait, cute anime girls that are reminiscent of Mothra? Okay. We have cute anime girls based off of the Shobijin. Maybe this is finally going somewhere. I mean, good on Haruo. He had a roll in the hay with one of the Mothra twin girls.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay? It's fun! Roll in the hay.
So it could be worse. Oh, okay, so we're finally going to touch back on Godzilla being like the planet's natural response to humanity, I guess. Ghidorah is an eldritch being, and someone is worshipping him and trying to summon him? Wow, this is going to be a really interesting fight. You guys got that, right? Every single opportunity the anime trilogy had to use its unique premise and interesting setting to tell a unique story and cover unique themes was completely squandered. From front to back, it was nothing but missed opportunities. Okay, we're gonna get past that. Godzilla Singular Point is a thing. Surely this can't be dog shit. Never mind. Godzilla Singular Point, though completely unconnected in terms of story, is just about as boring, but it also has story threads that go nowhere, as well as a propensity for pseudo-philosophical nonsense that means nothing. This is not the sort of philosophical stuff that Godzilla is meant to tackle. I've made jokes about time-traveling Anguirus in the past, and that's for a reason. When Godzilla gets philosophical and it works, it usually is in the context of anti-war, anti-weapon of mass destruction, anti-nuclear kind of stuff, or it just turns Godzilla into a metaphor for natural disasters, which, I mean, that's not my personal favorite take on the kind of Godzilla analogy slash metaphor, but at least it's better than what Singular Point did. In truth, I have a couple of ideas for what they could do with Godzilla anime. Like I said, me and my brother have kicked around quite a few. You could steer into the more mystical aspects of Godzilla. You could cover more of the sci-fi, extraterrestrial kind of side of Godzilla. You could just turn it into a straight up, simplistic, action, pseudo-shonen kind of deal. You could turn it into a mystery. You could turn it into a comedy. I mean, didn't the Showa series basically do that? You could cover the Showa series in terms of theming, goofiness, jokes, what have you. You could return to the Heisei series, make Godzilla more of an anti-hero. You could go to the Millennium movies and kind of just do like a one-off anime series that just kind of takes Godzilla in a strange new direction. You could do basically what they're doing with the Reiwa series, which is kind of an extension, I feel, of the Millennium series philosophy in that regard. They could have done so much, and in fairness, they rushed with glory with at least the anime trilogy. And depending on what you've read online about Singular Point, there are interpretations of the story of Godzilla Singular Point that could have worked. So there's that. The third major thing that I really think the anime has utterly failed on, with maybe the exception of Godzilla Singular Point with a huge asterisk next to it, is that I feel like anime is like the perfect place to reuse old human characters, especially if you kind of go with the sort of past era retread angle that I just kind of went over, or you could go over the old monsters. Since it's slightly briefer of a point, I will say Godzilla Singular Point did at least brush with greatness in that regard, because Godzilla Singular Point, for all of its many faults, at least we got stuff like Jet Jaguar and Kamanga and Hedra and Manda and Anguirus. some of those monsters were better in their execution than others, but the fact that they were brought back at all, and especially in the case of Jet Jaguar had such a pivotal role, was admirable at the very least. But like, the human characters, don't get me wrong, Mei Kamino, and although it was technically not a human, Pelops 2, were both great characters. And in the case of Mei, she was adorable. But the problem is, I literally do not remember any of the other characters from that anime, and I should not have to rewatch that series right before recording this video to tell you the names of the characters. Mei and Pelops are the only ones of any worth in that series. I have mentioned characters like Captain Gordon and how I would like to see them come back in an anime form. In his case, I feel like we could do Douglas Gordon kind of in the style of King Bradley / Fuhrer Bradley. I mean, just look at him. I feel like the mustache and the kind of chiseled jawline is indication enough that that character could be really interesting visually if you translated them into an anime context. But let's go beyond that. What about, I don't know, the Seatopians? That's an entire subcontinent, special branch of the human culture / planet that could be explored. I mean, imagine seeing Emperor Antonio from Godzilla vs. Megalon in an anime styling. I've talked about how he would be cool to see like dunking on Godzilla, kind of like Charles Barkley did in those old commercials, but I mean, it was cool seeing Seatopia kind of in the Gemstone Godzilla vs. Megalon short film, but I feel like anime is just like prime time for that. But let's move beyond normal human beings and normal human beings that dress in Roman / Greek togas. There are a lot of like special human branches that you could do in anime and would really be well served by the medium. Miki Sagusa from the Heisei movies was a psychic, so that could be done in an anime setting. And you could probably make her power set a lot more interesting because she already showed in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla that she could like lift objects with her mind. She could like inflict nightmares on people. Even if you didn't do Miki Sagusa specifically, I feel like psychics in anime, that's a really anime concept to begin with. So why not do that in an anime form? I know it was only in one movie, but M11 was a cyborg in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah in 1991. Why not do cyborgs in a Godzilla anime? Godzilla Final Wars had the mutants. I've said at numerous points I would love to see Shinichi Ozaki. I would love to see Atsunori Kazama. There are just so many characters from the live action movies that could be redone in an anime context and be done probably with a lot more sauce and a lot more style, which I think is one of the primary strengths of anime as a medium. Plus, you don't even have to use the actors that portrayed those specific characters, nor do you have to get them to voice them. So, like, imagine Yori Tachibana from GMK, or the Shinodas from Godzilla 2000, or any of the other numerous characters that have been in the Godzilla movies in an anime context. Imagine. And then let's go even further beyond, since we have Super Saiyan 3 Goku down here.
And this
What's he doing?
is to go even further beyond!
We have the classic Exilians from the Showa series, we have the Keylocks, we have the Simians, we have the Nebula M Space Hunters, then in the Heisei movies we have the Futurians, who I guarantee would look amazing if portrayed by anime. Then we have the Final Wars iteration of the Zillions. Then, let's say we go all the way into the anime trilogy and actually turn the characters within it into traditionally animated characters. There's the Exif and the Bailu Saludo also waiting in the wings. So there are plenty of human and human adjacent characters just waiting to be added to a traditional / digital Godzilla anime that is not 3D. And you know, kind of a bonus fourth point here, you could give all of the female characters massive tits. Oh, overall, I have just really been disappointed in the output of Toho Company Limited with regards to Godzilla in anime. I just had a lot higher hopes for Godzilla within the context of the anime medium, and I've talked about it and ragged on it at several times by this point, so I felt like I should put it into a video form. For the record, if you like Godzilla Singular Point or the Godzilla anime movie trilogy, do not let me rain on your parade. The Godzilla franchise is as long as it is and as diverse as it is in terms of storytelling, because you can do a lot of things with Godzilla and you can suit a lot of different tastes, both visually and from a storytelling perspective. This is just kind of my collection of musings about the kind of stuff I would have liked to have seen from Godzilla in anime, and what I hope to see from Godzilla in anime in the future. I doubt any of these thoughts or concepts will find their way to anyone who has any real sort of power with Godzilla, but I felt it worth the time. I really want to see the Godzilla franchise steer more heavily into its sort of Eastern/Japanese stylings. I am not particularly fond of a lot of the rot and cancerous growth that has wormed its way into the Western Godzilla IP. So I guess the short version of all of that is Godzilla the series is the best Godzilla anime. Do not at me. Monique Dupre is best girl. I know I have said that Yori Tachibana and Operator Yui are the best Godzilla girls, but it was a lie. It was a ruse. Anyway, that about does it for today, guys. I have to go get my dinner, which is hot dogs, because I am a real American. Drop a like if I aired any of your own frustrations with Godzilla within the context of anime. Drop a comment in the comment section below if you either A, disagree, or B, agree and would like to chime in with your own thoughts and opinions on the subject. And subscribe if you like to live dangerously, and you like not knowing whether uploads will remain consistent or not. That's about all I have for today, guys. Thank my brother, because he was the one that inspired this video recording session long in the past, as you know it. And until next time, I will catch you on the flip side. That feel when no stinky neat Godzilla girlfriend. Actually, now that you mention it...